It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter on a Mars day here with the moon hour. And the moon is actually in the 8th house, right conjunct in Jupiter in Taurus. So, if not for the invisible and retrograde ruler of Jupiter and of Taurus, I would kind of take a look to capture that in an artwork. But since Venus is retrograde and invisible, we can enjoy a kind of a more lighter, brighter, sozusagen, okay? Like the Nick Drake song, lighter, brighter mood. As the moon is exactly conjunct in Jupiter here in the 8th house. So I give you a study life with me, astrological. It's not a teaching because I don't know about these topics too much or at all. And I got actually a request to talk about tropical and sidereal astrology, which is a separate video that I can do. But then there were two terms that I've been hearing, and I didn't look to study them up until now. Not for any reason. There's just like absolutely no reason. And I know this is crazy, but I have to take this photo. So I did not. Now that we've captured the moment live, we can go back to. If you wonder what's my screensaver, is basically something that I'm doing for myself. I love to try magical works of creators from around the world. And what you've seen, basically, you can go right here. This on the right is the one with Ashwini. No. Asclepius by Sphere and Sundry. To the left is Fomalhaut by Sphere and Sundry. And what I do with these is basically I prepare for myself like screenshots, and I get acquainted with the energy so I know which one do I like to order. I also do this with crystals, which is another video that I wanted to record. So that is a part of how I decide. And sometimes I will have a screenshot or I'll have something that is on my mind, but then I go to order and it's actually something completely different. So yeah, that's for my screen capture. And now I just want us to do research. So I've been researching what is Draconic astrology, because first of all we have by AstroSig by Peter. I think I'm beginning to call him Peter the Great because he really does everything here for free for us to access, and that's like his leisure time. So this is probably one of those geniuses that live among us and don't talk too much, but do way more than anybody. So yeah, what is a draconic? What is this draconic thingy? So we have draconic transit chart or draconic birth chart because why not? Okay, then we will do. Okay, let's see. I will begin with the birth chart, and the only ethical way is to do it on mine. So I would just want to observe and see what is this thing. What does it give me? Why did I go to the years that are so? Anyway, 3:30. 3:30 and yeah. So Israel, actually, for those of you who have been wondering. So yeah, that would be the draconic chart. Okay, immediately I see that my midheaven and my ascendant are in completely different places, and there is draconic plus natal. It does give me an exalted moon in Taurus. I have no idea what it means or why do we look at it. But let's see Draconic plus natal, and this is the picture that is given. Yeah. So this is what would be my Draconic chart. And now I want to look what is Draconic astrology. Draconic astrology. Immediately it sounds threatening, but I don't know what it means. So let's go to Astrodians that explain about Draconic astrology. And I'm learning this with you, okay? I have no previous knowledge. This is just researching live with you. And I'll have my thoughts. If you know more about this, if I say something that I understood incorrectly, you can correct me in the comments. Draconic astrology, getting in touch with your deeper self. Maria Blackwell. It's written in 2017 and published here in January 6, 2021. I think they work by this. Yeah. Draconic comes from Latin and lunar nodes. Caput Draconis, the dragon's head or the moon's north node. Oh my god, now immediately I have to stop because yesterday, first of all, I got this question, I don't remember when, but yesterday the moon was with Rahu, and you're perhaps incredibly stupid, perhaps incredibly experimental, perhaps both, way informed that the head of the dragon, that is Rahu, gives us unpredictability in when we call for it. I decided to capture the moment, okay? And this is the clickbait basically that you see is this funny equation of Aries and Rahu and the moon in Aries. I don't remember if I added there Pluto already because I wanted to touch on the Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, but they will have to retouch when they are direct. They are making an aspect that has not been seen in the skies for at least 1,000 years. So it's probably it's probably meaningful. We don't know in what way, but those are harmonic aspects, and that is quite interesting. So yes, and so now I was asked the question, and I was called to study a couple of things, and Draconic was the first I looked at, and lo and behold, it has to do with the North Node or the nodes of the moon, the astrology of the nodes. So, whoa, yeah. And like I summoned the dragon. So, yeah, that's interesting. North Node, or Cauda Draconis, the dragon's tail, or South Node. The moon's North Node is the point where the moon crosses the ecliptic from south to north. Okay, from south, crosses the ecliptic from south. So the ecliptic, if we have the Earth, okay, the planets are evolving around the sun, including us, but the way we see it from the Earth, we kind of see all kind of bodies of skies surrounding our planet and the constellations themselves when we identify them in good sight and when they're not blocked by artificial skies, we can see that they are moving. And so the movement of those planets supposedly, it's an illusion, that they're supposedly moving around our Earth. Their trajectory is kind of considered the ecliptic. Okay, it's like the movement of the sun around the Earth is considered the ecliptic. It doesn't move around the Earth, it's an illusion, we get it, it's known since antiquity almost. Maybe not almost, like I don't remember everything of everything. And so the moon is when it crosses this ecliptic from south to north. This intersection is used as the starting point or zero Aries to cast a chart based on the Draconic zodiac. Okay, to tell you that I remember exactly to the detail what everything here means, I don't know, like did they mean that the moon crosses to zero Aries? Or is it like the cast of, the cast of the moon? it's basically the intersection between the moon's passage and the ecliptic, that basically, oh my gosh, I remember the analogy that, never mind. So, like there is the path of the sun, supposedly the way we see it, like it moves around the earth, which is not, and that path is the ecliptic. And then there's the way where the moon crosses it, and that is 0 Aries. So this intersection is used as the starting point, or 0 Aries. It's more complicated, like I would have to get into a more detailed thingy of that and to break it down a bit more. But for now, let's go on. Unlike the tropical zodiac of the solar origin, the tropical zodiac of solar origin, the draconic zodiac responds to the lunar symbolism. And this returns me a bit to tropical and sidereal that I do want to explain to you. Okay. Sidereal astrology is basically by the constellations in the sky. So when we say the sun is in Taurus, it does mean that the sun is in the constellation Taurus. Now, what we call the tropical zodiac, which is, and this is what I've learned it correctly from Michael A. Bryan, and the tropical zodiac is basically, it was the same as the sidereal, but then we have what we call precession. And so the earth is moving around, okay? But it is tilted on an axis. And along the years, there is an angle of the tilt that is changing. Okay, so the angle of the axis, okay, along which the earth tilts, becomes a bit wider. Okay, it becomes a bit wider. And that means that if, for example, when the tropical and sidereal zodiac were same zodiac, it would mean that, let's say we are in the Middle East, then the sun in April, okay, or the sun in late March, which is the first 0 degree Aries, would begin a new year. There would be a particular weather and particular time of the seasons, and the time that the sun takes to go from back in the days, the constellation, the 0 degree Aries to 29 degrees Aries would be basically the month, the solar month of Aries. Now, because of the change of the tilt of the earth, if we want to computate this time, which is tropical, is time-based rather than space-based, we would still say that from 22nd of March until 22nd of April, the sun is in Aries. But the sun would still be in Pisces in terms of the constellation. And it is changed because of the angle in which the earth is tilting. It's also changing the seasons. So that is what we call precession, and that is basically the gap that is formed in the tilting of the axis around which the earth is revolving, and that changes the angle at which we see the skies and the angle of the illusion that everything is revolving around us. It changes because now it's revolving around us in the constellation Pisces, but at the same time of the year that it would be doing so in Aries back in antiquity, okay? And so tropical zodiacs doesn't mind about the constellation. It's going to say, well, from 22 March, we have the moon entering 0 Aries until 22 April. This is what we work with. And when you work with it, it works fine. Sidereal astrology says, no, we are working with the constellation, okay? The time is changing upon the earth, good, but now, at this time, the sun is in Pisces. So we are working with the constellation. we're looking at the sky and we see what is happening. And that works wonderful too. What works better for sidereal, what for tropical? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. It's a question of dispute in general. Don't forget that the whole thing is the way that we receive astrology. And so time, that is also a social construct, has meaning. Okay, so that is the tropical sidereal. And here they are referring to, unlike the tropical zodiac, they're referring to the lunar symbolism. So they're not referring necessarily to, because they're not referring to a point that is signified, if I'm not mistaken, by either tropical or sidereal, okay? Because they are computating the moon, but then the nodes of the moon, and let's say the intersection of the moon, the passage of the moon and the passage of the sun, the intersection is considered 0 Aries when the moon goes from south to north, right? Yeah, from south to north. Then it crosses it crosses not the sun itself, it crosses the circle, the imaginary circle that the sun casts when it travels around the earth, okay? It's a bit more difficult to explain this without visuals, but I'm learning to understand this myself too. And so at this point is becoming 0 Aries. We just calculated some construct and we decided that this point of intersection of the moon to the ecliptic, okay, moon crossing that point of ecliptic, that is 0 Aries, and from that we work. And this is called Draconic zodiac. Okay, it's a way to divide and a way to redraw the map, so to speak. So lunar. And indeed the midheaven was ruled by the moon, and the moon in the 8th house, so the occult side of the moon. So astrology of the moon. So the Draconic zodiac responds to lunar symbolism and therefore expresses unconscious motivations that affect our daily life. So it's a bit reminded me of, it's not the same, there is a concept called esoteric astrology. And in esoteric astrology, the symbols of, let's say, the zodiac, the planets, the houses, whatever they're working with, has another type of symbolism in terms of the journey of the soul. So let's say Capricorn symbolizes climbing to the mountain, while Aquarius is about the decline from the top of the mountain, where you have amounted to so much and now you have to let go of all of your achievements and go back to be, as the common person. Okay, decline down the ladder. Recently we had Saturn going through Aquarius. Some of us had to experience that. Okay, I went basically from taking a break from academia to speaking with people, and then I realized that my jargon is too academic, and then I was in between houses, and Aquarius is my 12th house, so it's extra symbolism of that journey. And then I had to speak with people from like everywhere and make whatever is relevant from what I've learned as a contribution to these people. And kind of like everything that I've achieved in life, whether it's my degrees or status or this, when you are in exile, nobody knows who you are. And there's also something beautiful about this, because you're being seen as a person without all the masks of your achievements. So yeah. Instead of representing psychological traits, it displays those recurrent emotional responses and inner impulses that we feel are beyond our control, which have to do with the hereditary issues or early childhood experiences. So this sounds, in the psychological stuff it sounds like evolutionary to me, and indeed the nodes have major role also in evolutionary astrology, which is about the development of the soul. They work usually with tropical zodiac. The south and north node but it's different here. Okay, it's different. There's something different here that I don't know how to like assess. The south and north node are placed 180 degrees from each other on the nodal axis. That we know. The tail of the dragon is opposing the head of the dragon. I know from Yared Rebelsky, which is who is an Israeli astrologer, very famous, that it's not just the tail and the head of the dragon. There is also like, I think, the wings, and that is like an X. Okay, so let's say, yeah, I have north node in Gemini, south node in Sagittarius. That would be the tail and the head of the dragon. They're in opposition, but it basically pinpoints the mutable axis. Okay, where I also have my ascendant in my 7th house by chance, because I have the IC in the same sign of Rahu, but whatever, tropically. And that would mean that the entire X of the mutable signs is related to my interpretations of south and north nodes. Kind of like the wings of Pisces and Virgo in my case, they also are activated by eclipses, which is what triggers Rahu and Ketu. So yes, the south node or the dragon's tail show where we come from Okay, south node, where we come from, or maybe if you include past lives, what were we in past lives? It describes those qualities that we are already familiar with and express in spite of ourselves. It's kind of like your comfort zone psychologically, or what you tend to lean to. Yes, if I give my example, I have Ketu in the 10th house in Sagittarius, with Sagittarius in the 11th. And so my tendency is to lean back to either the traditions of, one of my parents or my upbringing, or whether it is my social status. It's kind of interesting, but my career or my public life or my agendas, okay, what I believe in, kind of like that, appealing to the masses, stuff like that. While the North Node is basically, it's both your upbringing in terms of like your childhood experiences, as well as the house that you build yourself, your elementary education, foundations. And that is something that happens more towards the 40s, which I actually am at. So this is where we came from. The North Node of the Dragon's Head represents where we are going. It pinpoints the traits we strive to conquer in order to counterbalance the unconscious tendencies. In his article, How to Interpret Your Lunar Nodes, French astrologer Rune Rudhyar states, from more strictly biological and functional point of view, the lunar nodes refer to the mouth of an animal, and the south lunar node, the north is the mouth, the south is the organs of evacuation, which means both the anus and the procreative organs from which the seeds go forth. Immediately when I'm reading that, it makes it crystal clear how the cycles of past and future are interrelated. Okay, while the anus is probably more it's also your future if you basically recycle your crap, but in the sense that you give it like to the plants or to the soil, and then some food grows on it and then you eat it. But in the sense of procreation, it kind of means like where we come from will also be our children. And I know an astrological teaching that I've heard about both, I think from Carpiel and from Lada, and that is that our grandparents carried we are the continuation of our grandparents in terms of the line of karma, or what we are supposed to live or continue. Okay. For example, my grandfather, from my mother's side, in the Holocaust, he used to go in and out of the camp because he looked Irish, to bring food to people. And after he survived the Holocaust and he went to Israel, he opened a grocery shop where he sold vegetables. Okay, so only vegetables and fruits. That was what he was selling. Some drinking cans, some like not the alcohol, like sodas. So that was kind of his role. And me right now, to heal myself, I began to grow food. And I noticed it is very healing for me to begin to, at least to tend to grow in food. I don't grow all of my food today, but I do tend to that. And that's kind of very interesting. And yes, food played a great part in my life. So the sourcing of food, the thinking of food, what food is good to eat, and so on and so forth. So yeah. And this also means that our children, we need to look at our parents, because with the passage of our parents is continued with our children, if we bring children. So yeah. He emphasizes that the south node is not necessarily negative, but the point of automatic release of materials, and the organism needs to get rid of it. But again, you eliminate it, but it will come back. Okay, if you talk about, you kind of like, you let go of your parents' house, and then you become, pregnant, and then you bring children, and those children are again bringing you back to your parents' house. Okay. In the same article, exemplifies this concept by quoting French composer Saint-Saëns, 1835 to 1921, used to say, "I compose just like an apple tree produces apples." Wait. I compose just like an apple tree produces apples. Okay, this is what I think Aristo was the one who talked about telos. And he talked about actually seed. So the telos, if you plant a seed of a cucumber, you won't grow grapefruit. It's very likely you won't grow grapefruit. So certain things have their telos, or another way, which is the ruler of agriculture is actually Saturn. And Saturn, what it rules? Karma. I mean, if you sow your seeds to one direction, don't expect to grow something else. You got to pay attention that you're sowing the seed that you want to sow, and that you're nourishing the seed so it will grow straight and not crooked. Okay, so this is in a way karma. And for a person who is a musician, it's kind of, they felt like, I'm doing this just like a tree produces apple. This is my natural path. This is my natural thing to do. Or I can say, I record these videos like a tree produces apples. It's my natural path to record these videos. It can be productive in an unconscious way, entailing no discernment or awareness. So you're being productive and you're not even paying attention to that, or being at flow. Maybe people could make that analogy. In other words, the automatic impulses described by the south node need to be outgrown and countervailed by incorporating the north's attributes. This is why many astrologers refer to the axis as the soul's path. This is also true in evolutionary astrology, but it's also true all across the board. For instance, a person with the North Node in Sagittarius is born with natural inclination towards learning and communication, which is Gemini, but can also be superficial and change in opinions, South Node Gemini. In an internal level, he feels the need to seek his own philosophy of life, to contend with higher truths, and to expand his consciousness through fields such as philosophy, teaching, religion, and traveling. Your girl here has it the opposite, okay? Kind of like I would make all kinds of like religious reforming text as diaries when I was young, but I actually need to go towards applying stuff hands-on, and astrology is kind of a midway between this, because I do get to apply things based on charts, but I also get to have this like philosophical thinking as well. Okay, he knows he has become accomplished in Gemini, and that to follow his path of least resistance prevents his growth. Okay, so if he doesn't tackle the obstacles that he has in his way to develop his worldview or his philosophy, He just stays there in Gemini where he was. But he came here to do something more than that. Something more than exchanging opinions with people. Okay, whereas for me, it's the other way around. I came from certain world philosophies that I may have developed in past life that perhaps are outdated, and I need to communicate with people, with the common people, have social interaction, be willing to change my opinions and to change my philosophy. And indeed, I'm possibilionist. So yeah, and you need to see where South Node and North Node is for you. And also think of an axis, okay? Think about mutable axis. Think about fixed axis. This Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Leo. And think about cardinal axis is the ignition, and that is Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, and Aries. Or someone with North Node in the 10th house, like me, is innately drawn, but this is not in Draconic for me, is innately drawn towards nesting and attached to her past and family. South Node in the 4th. The North in the 10th suggested she should struggle to establish her social and professional. Oh no, sorry, I have midheaven in the 10th. That's why I got confused. You just said the opposite. Said that she should struggle to establish her social and professional position, but without losing her ability to take care and nurture her family in doing so. Okay? And I'm the other way around. I'm a person who would be career, work, Arbeit macht frei. And now, as I'm going to my 40s, I see what horrid mistakes I've made overvaluing career, and I'm basically drawn to tackling the obstacles I have with, I don't know if it's having a family, but because it seems way far off from me where I'm at, but who knows? But also kind of like not being at work all day. So yeah, both nodes need each other to maintain balance, equilibrium. How to calculate the Draconic chart? Many sites such as Astro.com calculate Draconic charts. It can also be done very simply by using the position of the tropical North Node as 0 Aries. So let's say if my North Node is in 6 degrees Gemini, I would begin my Draconic chart if I wanted to calculate it by hand, which would be a very funny exercise. If I ever want to do satire joke about me with me, I will try to calculate it by hand. And that would mean that 6 Gemini would be 0 Aries. Okay, and so 6 Gemini for me would be 0 Aries, and that means that the chart begins in 0 Aries. Then let's try to do a simple calculation. That means my moon is in 13 degrees Cancer. Now you get confused with me, okay? So I remove 6 degrees from this 13 Cancer. But it's going to be the moon in Taurus. And so 13 minus 6, that would be 7 degrees Taurus. So I'm supposed to have the moon in 7 degrees Taurus. Let's look at my Draconic chart here with AstroSeek. No, this one. 6 degrees. Oh, yes. Very close, 6 degrees Taurus. Yeah. But funnily enough, I see here North and South Node. Oh, yes, because it basically means that the North Node is in 0 Aries. Okay, and that is actually tropically 6 Gemini, where you see 0 Aries in this chart. So, very interesting. I might give myself a live reading so to test this. How to calculate the Draconic chart? So we said 0 Aries. The North Node can be determined in 2 ways, mean or true. The main difference is that whilst mean is always retrograde, true is direct a few days each month. Oh, I actually didn't know it. I thought that the nodes are always retrograde. To figure out mean, the node's rate of motion is averaged out, while true takes into account the position of the node after correction of the alterations that the gravitational forces of the sun and moon cause in its path. Okay, this sounds like very, very cool, but I don't want to like get it. It's like I know why it affects, but I cannot tell you the particulars of how. The result is very similar in both cases, and they are never more than a few degrees away from each other. There is no agreement among astrologers as to which is better to use. For example, in this article has already been mentioned, Rudyard advocates the use of the mean nodes in his words, as the nodes are points, they're not actual bodies, concrete entities, but refer to the interaction of the two cycles, the lunar month and the solar year. The mean position of the node seems to be more significant than the slightly different actual position. I still don't understand the logic. I mean, yes, it's true that they are computable, but I don't see why would we prefer the mean over the actual position of the nodes, even if they are computed. Like, even if it's a construct, accuracy might not be a bad thing. Whatever. To calculate the Draconic chart, the position of the north node is subtracted from the location of each planet and house cusp. Exactly. Okay, like I did, my moon is 13 degrees Cancer tropically. Let's take 6 degrees out, and that should be 7, but here was 6 and something, so it's almost 7. Example of calculation of the position. So north node is 28 Cancer. And what you see here, the 118 degrees, is basically if you divide the ecliptic, okay, into 30, it's basically 359. Okay, 300, or the entire ecliptic is like 360, but because we begin with 0 degrees, then it goes into 359, and the supposed 360 is the 0 degrees Aries again. More difficult, I learned it with Michael A. Bryan, and it basically means that, let's say if Aries is 0 to 29 degrees on the ecliptic, Taurus will be 30 to 59, right? 40, 50, no, 60, 40, 50, but it's not 60, it's 59, because it's another 30, so 59. And so Gemini would be 60 to 89. Okay, Cancer 90 to blah blah blah. So yeah, and that is why you see the 118 degrees is on the ecliptic. It's just another way to pinpoint without the zodiacs, and if you take out non-zodiacal astrology, then you use these degrees, okay, because they tell you the position of the planet on the ecliptic rather than to go Cancer, Virgo, and so on and so forth. So you also do astrology without the zodiac. You can do the planets, and then there are midpoints between the planets, and all kinds of funny and fun calculations that are very predictive if you look at the hard aspects between these bodies. And that is what you do with types of astrologies that are not based on the zodiac. And I know Michael A. Bryan is teaching exactly those types. So the same procedure is used for the rest of the planets and house cusps. In the resulting chart, the shape of the chart does not change because the tropical house placements and aspects remain the same. They will have different signs and degrees, but the same house positions as the tropical. Oh, I did not know that. A moon placed in the tropical 8th house square Saturn will still be in the same position and aspect in the Draconic. And this is, I just talked about non-zodiacal astrology. This is how you can simplify things and say, and there's value to the simplification or reduction without becoming redundant, and there is also value to adding the facets of zodiac signs. But you could also say, well, if the moon is in the same aspect and position in sidereal, in tropical, and in Draconic astrology, why won't I just look at the aspects? And there's a great channel called Truth in Aspects Astrology by, and I don't remember her name, and it basically looks both at synastries and composites, And now she's doing permaculture and growing agriculture with the astrology, which she does in great segments that are very approachable, and I'm very tuning into this one. So truth in aspect astrology. So you basically look at the aspects. When I began to do composite science, where you don't look at the zodiac, basically, it's where I began astrology, where I began to give consultations. I would look at outer planets to inner planets, as those will be the things that your relationship will have to deal with. And if they are very hard aspects, then you need to be aware of it from the get-go, and it's better to know sooner than later. So it's not impossible, but yes, we also want to know certain things. And that would basically base off aspects between planets, particularly outer to inner planet at that point. So yeah, this chart, the Draconic chart, coexists with the tropical one, complementing it. So it's better to approach them together. Special attention should be paid to conjunctions and oppositions. This is already how to interpret. Between tropical and draconic planets. Okay, this is new to me. It's very interesting. Using an orb of 5 degrees, so it gives us the orb of the degrees around which we consider something to be a conjunction. So yeah. These links make available more subliminal aspects of our personality, which come up by means of the conscious traits represented by the tropical planets and angles, to help make clear distinction between the functions of both charts. Argentinian astrologer Nestor Echarte recommends interpreting the draconian houses and the planets as if they were conjunct the moon. Oh, okay. So let's say you have a conjunction between your tropical. Let's say Mars Draconic conjunct Jupiter tropical. Okay? So you interpret it as if though you had Moon conjunct tropical Jupiter, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. If they were, oh, sorry, so Mars conjunct Moon, because the tropical becomes like Moon and the draconic becomes like the planet that is conjunct in the Moon, if I'm not mistaken, or the other way around. Okay, this example. Woman with the Sun in Cancer who feels as though she can identify with the importance of protecting and nurturing her family. This is not to make her feel this is not enough to make her feel fulfilled. The Draconic Sun is in Aquarius. So one could say that although her immediate environment will be always crucial, okay, this is the Moon, there is an inner force that compels her to get involved with groups, activities related to social issues, or modern technological developments. That is very interesting. A great way of combining both could be by working with children or women at risk, or living in extreme environments. I will look at my chart again after this for sure. Another possibility, always depends on the rest of the chart, could be by growing food and plants in a community center and applying innovative techniques to the process, okay? Because the Aquarius, it wants us to do technology or something that is generous, not one family. Cancer is like to care for the nuclear family, but Aquarius is the masses, to care for the masses, so a bit more humanitarian in this inclination. And I thank Austin Kapok for in his interview with Chris Brennan about Pisces, he told the difference between Scorpio, which is kind of like single focus. I'm loyal to this person and this person must be loyal to me or I feel betrayed. Cancer is to my own nuclear family. Okay, care about my family. I don't care about like other families. I wish them well, but I will, die for my family. And Pisces, that is more humanitarian. I feel the pain of the person in the other part of the world as though it was, his words in some other segment was like, it's happening to my mother. and as a person who possesses all the waters, so he definitely knows has these aspects within himself. So Cancer is the nuclear. Okay, it's kind of like if Cancer is also for for United States, Cancer is also the nation. If you remember Splendid Isolation, which did not age well, like maybe it could have, but it didn't. Then it was about America doesn't have friends, it only has interests, but it's supposed to sort of take care of the American people, which it doesn't do because it's a nation. But Cancer is more about this is my tribe, this is my family, this is who I'm loyal to, nobody else but them. So yeah, a great way of combining both would be working with children or women at risk. Another possibility could be food on plants. Also, yeah, developing an app to help women tackle issues related to feeding their families. Okay, so you can see how a single position on the tropical becomes another position on the draconic, and so the archetype is constructed with various like the recipes for the archetype include Aquarius now, and so it would be a different type of Cancer sun. I love this. How to interpret the draconic houses. On combining both charts, the houses overlap. A way of reading this would be considering the draconic house as the internal emotional layer. Special attention should be paid to the draconic house that coincides with the tropical 12th house or vice versa. This is an area that will involve hardship that presents itself through fated events. For instance, if the draconic 12th overlaps the tropical ascendant, unconscious, unresolved issues like draconic 12th will come up in the sense of self. Okay, the relationship with the body and the way it appears to others. So you think about the person, let's say a person that is looking fairly okay, might not be the most athletic or the most this, kind of like looking fairly okay, eating fairly okay, and there's nothing too significant about like their appearance that would say, oh, this person struggled with so and so. It's kind of like the person who may have a hidden conflicts or I don't want to say eating disorders, but difficulties with, let's say, eating or body weight, but they don't look like somebody who has it. They don't look especially fat or especially skinny. It doesn't look like they have food, like they might be terrified of eating, but they eat. And so the draconic is more like a hidden layer. There's something that they're dealing with that can be visible, but doesn't have to be visible, or there's something that they're doing regarding to their body or their exercise or whatnot, or their life path even, or appearance that is driven by unconscious like complexes. Or if the draconic 12th concurs with the tropical 7th, destiny seems to test this person through personal relationship and social interactions. Princess Diana illustrates this point. Another crucial point is the draconic ascendant in relation to the tropical house it coincides with. If the draconic ascendant overlaps with the tropical 3rd, the person expresses his deeper motivations and gets in touch with his most intimate self through studying, learning, writing. In combination with the tropical 4th, one becomes into deep contact with oneself through experiences related to the family, past, and home. Okay, this draconic ascendant in relation to the tropical house it coincides with. Okay. With the 6th, a clearer sense of identity is reached through work or illness, or the kind of service one provides. So you think about those healers. You think about those people that, let's say, had IBS, okay? And they didn't find anything that helps it, and so they developed their own like diet and their own structure, and they learned about what does it mean, like their stress levels or maybe traumas that they had that affected digestion, and then they can become like a healer or an alternative medical health professional that doesn't come from the orthodoxy, because they had to deal with this ailment. Now they had to resolve it, And now they have a teaching that can help other people with IBS that didn't have any solution or viable solution, or that the doctors will tell them, you will always have this, you will always have to deal with this. And so their life path was to do something different. Example charts Queen Maxima of the Netherlands. Born Maxima Zoreguaita Cerruti in Argentina. Ooh. She is the wife of King Willem Alexander. I've used AstroDataBank to maintained by Astro.com for these charts and calculators. The true notes have been used. House system was Placidus. All personal information have been obtained from bbc.com. And of course, it's educational, blah, blah, blah. So this is a concrete example. Natal and Draconic chart comparison. Maxima met Willem Alexander in April 1999 in Seville, Spain. In an interview, they stated that he introduced himself only as Alexander, so that she didn't know he was a prince. Okay, it kind of makes sense if you are a person of royalty or a person that has very high status or a billionaire or whatnot, and you genuinely want to get to know a companion. You can go to some place where nobody knows who you are, and you just introduce yourself as by first name, and see if that other person is interested in you for you, not for your money, for your status, for your ancestry, you know? I had actually something like this, but non-romantic. When I was in Netherlands and I was channeling someone that I didn't know, like, what was their position in society, and I was just curious about something and like how they died, and then they kind of took me to this place and to that place and to show me around and to this and to that, and I didn't know there was this fingerprint. I'm like, okay, my passport is biometric, and then I found that they were not just a journalist, but they were one of the most famous people for their profession in the country, and I'm like, oh, that's funny. It's I had no idea who they are. But here it is romantic story. So he presented himself by his first name. She did not know who he was. She thought he was joking when he later told her he was not only a prince, but the Prince of Orange. And heir apparent, so his successor to the Dutch throne. Draconic vertex is in the cusp of the 7th house. According to the American astrologer Celeste Thiel, and of course, it's I'm half Dutch, and the story I just told was of a person who had Pluto on Regulus, so he was exposing the Dutch kingdom and the royalty as well. So very interesting that I come to this. According to the American astrologer Celeste Thiel, the vertex is a point of fated meetings which escape our control and may be revealing factor in relationships between couples who have otherwise incompatible backgrounds. Let me read that one again. Draconic of vertex in the cusp of the 7th. Well, it's interesting. Tropically, I have vertex in the 7th, and indeed my one-to-one partnership has been very fated, so oftentimes very transforming, sometimes even life-risking, but definitely fate. And so in the Draconic as well is considered very fated meetings, and they would put people together even though there's like, it doesn't matter the background of each other, doesn't matter anything, they would put them together because there's something that they need to do. So this is interesting. In her book, The Predicting Events with Astrology, she states that the vertex is associated with experiences and encounters with others over which one has little or no control. And we attract others to play those parts in ourselves that we disown. Okay? I don't know if it is true, like, to vertex or not. I do have a cautionary tale, because if you are attracting and you have like a violent relationship, it's while acknowledging the role of fate is not bad, just make sure you're not going into this twin flame swirl teaching where you think that you're supposed to stay together or supposed to learn from being with this person. It's like, if they're misbehaving towards you, they're supposed to cut it. You're supposed to cut it by any means necessary. And I know it's not as simple, but that at least to understand this, that this is not what you were meant to suffer with them. Maybe you intended to meet them, but you did not intend to stay with them. That's what I'm saying. Okay, Draconic 7th is in Leo. She married the king. Okay, Leo, royalty. And overlapping the tropical 9th from another country. Okay, so Draconic Leo is overlapping her 9th house. And so she met a king, and here the Draconic is the 7th. So she met the king for marital purposes. Through her marriage, she became well known beyond her usual surroundings. She is the first Dutch queen to consort to have been born as a commoner, son in the 6th, and the first to have been born outside of Europe. The tropical 4th house is ruled by Neptune conjunct Jupiter. Mars, ruler of the 4th Draconic, is also disposed by the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. She has dual citizenship, Argentine and Dutch. Oh, I wonder if I will see my dual citizenship in this chart. Let's see. Draconic Mars, ruler of the 4th, and tropical 4th in Pisces, a double-bodied signs. Okay, double-bodied can denote like 2 homes, 2 motherlands, and so on. Her tropical ascendant is 0 Capricorn, which is a critical degree. Okay, 0 degree of any sign tropically, probably also sidereally, is when you just open the door. Okay, let's say this is the house of Capricorn, you just open the door, you're standing at the doorway. Okay, like what is this place? 29th is you're about to leave. Okay, you're about to exit. After you've been in every room, in every, chatted to every person. It's like everybody who's in there, you got to know them, and you can already predict things about this place because you kind of know how it goes. Now you're about to open the next doorway, and this is the 0 degrees of the next sign. Yeah, so Aries point identified with the notoriety and public acknowledgement. A tropical ascendant is at 0 Capricorn, which is a critical degree, or Aries point. I don't know why did it say Aries point here. Notoriety. Oh, I know, understand. Okay. If the ascendant is Capricorn, then 0 degree Aries is the 10th house. I get. Okay. Identified with the notoriety and public acknowledgement. Celeste Thiel states that it associates with events that will extend outwards and beyond the individual usual surroundings. So that's like your public image, your social status. It's kind of like the thing you don't really have control over or something to do about, because that's just the way people see you when you present yourself publicly. This ascendant overlaps her 11th Draconic, which explains, together with her Draconic ascendant in Aquarius, her concern for social issues. Queen Maxima has a particular concern for the integration of immigrants, Draconic 11th in Sagittarius, into Dutch culture. This is true. If you manage to go through the hurdles in Netherlands, basically, if you go through a language test, okay, if you get to know the language of, and that I think maybe history or language of Netherlands, then you can kind of be like in Netherlands. It's way more ideal than it sounds like. It doesn't actually work. Maybe that's her desire. It doesn't actually work in application. There's a lot of divide and conquer and trying to get, let's say, homeless people who are Dutch and homeless people who are foreigners to kind of hate each other, then treat them differently, so that the Dutch citizens will think that Netherlands prefers the refugees from other countries, and they think, oh, why do they give so much riches to other countries, which is not true. Okay, one example, concrete example that they can give you, and I had the issue of refugees coming up when I was in shelter. So I have Dutch passport, but in the beginning I didn't have it with me. So I was in like with the European refugees, okay? And in the same hostel, there was refugees from Syria. The refugees from Syria had to stay around okay? They had to stay around. So they would get 3 meals a day and they had to stay inside. But this is what the refugees from Europe didn't know, because we had to go from 9 p.m. and it was very cold, it was winter, 9 p.m. until 4 or 5, 9 a.m. until 4 or 5 p.m. Only then we can go back to the shelter to eat and to sleep. And so we had to go in the cold all day and we were expected to take our things with us. So people hated the refugees from Syria because they got to stay in. But the refugees from Syria got to stay in because they didn't look European and nobody wanted them around because it doesn't attract tourists. We were crossing as Europeans or tourists or something that wouldn't make concern to the people that come to waste their money, I don't know, in the red lights district or whatnot in Netherlands. So that was not the point, but the thing is that the Dutch people, they thought, I don't have a house, and these people, they get houses, they get to stay in all day, they get this, they get that. Why do they invest in these people? They don't invest in me, okay? But it's not the actual truth. There was a Dutch homeless person, or I think she was like, she was a rat, you know? Because she tried to say, I work at the Patat and I put my money in Germany, kind of like this. And it's like, no, you're not. You wouldn't talk about this if that was the case. But whatever. And she says, I have an Iranian friend, so he told me I could get whichever apartment I want in South Amsterdam, where the richest lived, also Jews that were rich. He said, hey, I can get any apartment that I want. And she said, what? Why can I? Why am I mistreated? And I'm like, oh, come on, you believe everything this person tells you. Okay? Or she was trying to, if I'm Dutch, she was trying to get me to hate refugees. But no, I'm not going to hate on people for no reason. So yeah, she was a member of the Social Parliament Commission, which sought to recommend ways to increase the participation of female immigrants in the workforce. Draconic sixth in Cancer. She was a member of the Committee for Ethnic Minority Women's Participation from July 2003 until 2005. She currently serves as the United Nations Secretary General Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development. Her role is to raise awareness on the importance of inclusive finance systems for achieving economic and development goals such as poverty alleviation, food security, and education. Okay, that is interesting. Her Draconic ninth overlaps with the tropical 10th. She participates in conferences around the world representing the Netherlands. Okay, Netherlands is her ninth house, is abroad to her, although she lives in Netherlands now. But she goes abroad to represent Netherlands, known for the country that she lives in, which is abroad, known for the place that is abroad to the place of birth. Perhaps that's the meaning. Draconic ascendant coincides with the tropical third. Maxima stresses the importance of immigrants, for immigrants of learning the Dutch language. I told you, this is what I told you. You need to learn the language in order to fully participate in Dutch society. This is one of the problems that I have, because I've studied 2 semesters of Dutch in Israel. But because I had traumas and because I saw the many injustices that are done in the country, it was difficult for me to speak Dutch. Also, because I was born and raised in Israel, I don't know why us Israelis, when we speak Dutch, and even though my weird accents are happening, I would try to speak Dutch, but it would come out like German, so I would be ashamed to speak Dutch so that I wouldn't sound German. And so I spoke in English. And it was very difficult to establish rapport with people who expect you to speak the language and they want to treat you like one of them, but you don't speak the language, so it's very difficult emotionally for them to see you as Dutch. And it was a bit strenuous, and there was also like emotional difficulties, like, oh, I see all these things that are done, and it's like it's making it difficult for me to do the things that I'm supposed to do to become like one of the people, and kind of like working against myself. So yes, Dutch is the Queen's third language. She is also fluent in Spanish, her native language, and English. She speaks French to a conversational level. Sun in Taurus, and you can see when I speak about Netherlands, my accent changes, but I don't know how to speak Dutch fluently. Sun in Taurus and Draconic Sun in Cancer. She's well received by the Dutch people, who see her as a woman who's capable of bringing stability to the king's life, mainly by being supportive and caring on an emotional level. Okay? I will add to that that every people of every nation would connect better with someone who pays emphasis about learning their mother tongue. Okay? So, because she tended to learn the language so well, it's more likely she will establish rapport based on language. Both charts have the ruler of the 10th in the 5th, and her eldest daughter is the heir to the throne. So we're going to have a Dutch queen. Transits. Draconic chart is sensitive to draconic transits, which indicate the moment in which our unconscious energies manifest themselves, very often in the form of major events that alter the course of our lives. Okay. Because of the draconic zodiac is different from the tropical, the planets move at a different pace, and a specific kind of ephemeris is needed to calculate the draconic transits. I don't understand why the different pace. Oh, maybe because it's by the moon, so it's the lunar pace. It's kind of like a lunar progression instead of a solar progression, if I get it right. But if a draconic ephemeris is not available to calculate draconic transits, the position of the North Node is subtracted from the location of each planet for a given day. Sites such as astro.com or cartanatal.es to calculate, or astroseek.com to calculate this type of transit as well. Tropical transits to the draconic chart can also offer valuable information. Argentinian astrologer Geronimo Brignone recommends focusing on conjunctions and oppositions to keep a tight orb of 2 degrees. Okay, transits of draconic Mars to draconic Jupiter. You know what? I will wait with this segment, and I may do another episode. I want to see my chart, huh? So, no, this. Now I'm going to look at the draconic and the natal for me. So immediately I see that my tropical ascendant conjuncts the draconic Chiron. My tropical ascendant conjuncts the draconic Chiron. It basically means the themes of Chiron, being as the wounded healer, play much more significant role in my life than in the life of others. But I don't see here. Oh, with Chiron. Oh, Chiron is in Pisces. Okay, Chiron having an agenda or having a spiritual teaching for the masses. With Capricorn, it means that the position in the hierarchy is actually quite important. Okay, it is. It means that there is a life path of someone who is somewhat of an authority figure in whatever they do or in their community, and is conjunct in Jupiter. So this can also be, tropically Jupiter rules my ascendant. So again, my 11th and my 1st and my 3rd are also connected in the tropical. But it can also mean that to think about things of Jupiter or to do my life path is carrying even greater importance. To be on my life path carries even greater importance. And this is a life path of being somewhat of a public figure. Okay. This can also mean that Jupiter denotes, a teacher, a guru, but also husband. And that in some way that carries more of meaning, although I am not married. So it genuinely means that spiritual teachings have very big, or speaking to the masses about spiritual teachings daily, publicly, is something that is very essential to what I do in life, which indeed is true. What else do we have here? Well, we have the Draconic midheaven in Libra. So the Draconic, a 10th house in Libra. Is it in the 10th? Yes, it's in the 10th. Applying to conjunct Draconic Neptune. No, so it's not. It just means that the 10th house is in my tropical 8th house. The Draconic 10th house of midheaven is in my tropical 8th house. And indeed, I tend to talk about things of the 8th, whether it's energy, occult, or the occult aspect of relationships, intergenerational stuff, whether it's inheritance, intergenerational wealth, wills, and so on. So that plays an important part. The Draconic descendant, which I don't know how to interpret, is conjuncting my tropical moon. This basically means that my 7th is my 4th. Now, also on the tropical, my moon is in my mother's 7th and her moon is in my 7th, which gives a lot of problems, actually. It both means that one can feel each other from distance, yes. But there is parents, it's the parent become a partner. I don't mean in a molestation way, it's not at all. But it means that there is difficulty. So sometimes I would expect the parent to be a parent and not a partner. And sometimes I would say, oh, no, I'm not going to treat you that way just because you are my parent, who I did in my childhood. You got to be a human being. I treat you based on how you are as a human being, not as you are because you're my parent, I give respect. No, you treat me with respect, I give you respect. Okay, that's the thing. But here it kind of means that there is a big connection between, this is my 5th house actually, tropically. The moon is in my 5th tropically, but is in my parents' 7th. Okay, here it is in the 4th. Draconian 4th is the tropical 5th. I can be creative at home or being creative from home. I don't know, like the 4th is the tropical 5th, so kind of like the meaning of the 5th and the 4th. Kind of, 5th can also be children. So like my house has to fit the children, or something like this. But this can also be creative project or my leisure time. Maybe I have a leisure time at home, or I like to create homes or something like that. I don't know. So I'm doing it on whole sign based. Draconian moon is in Taurus, is conjuncting Venus tropically in Taurus. And this also means that the 2nd Draconian house is the 3rd tropical. This would be 2nd if we did Placidus, but I'm going for whole sign. It means that caring and caregiving and care receiving is highly important as a love language. Like receiving care is my love language, I guess that, and also giving care is my love language. My underlying motive of having relations is emotional safety and stability. Okay, if it needs, it's a great value for me to be safe in relationships. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about the ascendant, we talked about the midheaven, the descendant, we talked about the moon, the 0 degree Aries, which is, tropical Gemini 6th, but the 0 degree Aries is Rahu. Well, Aries is my 2nd tropically. So it's kind of like the 1st and the second, like, yeah, the first and the second. No, 0 degree Aries. So 0 degree Aries. Oh, Draconian. Draconian Aries is my 10th, and tropically it's my second. So it's kind of like I need to be known for my skill. I need to be making an income from my career. Whatever I'm known for, I need to be making money from. Psychologically, it's also basically, it means more that my skill, okay, I'm doing what I'm doing psychologically because I want to be known by it, because I want this to be my status, my when other people say, who is Shirley, then let's say the word astrologer should be there. Okay, it's kind of like, oh, I'm doing this skill, or the word writer, screenwriter should be there. And that is like the psychological motive of me applying skills, is because I think I may have a career from them. So yeah. Or also I have the ruler of my 7th and 4th in my 2nd, and my 2nd is my 10th Draconian. It's kind of like a partner should contribute to my status, should contribute to my career. Okay, it should be supportive of my career. And also I should have, on the tropical level, I should have more income with the partner. Okay, partner is not supposed to drain my income, is supposed to actually add to my income and my wealth and to my career and to my goals in life. And then I know if this partner is supportive of me, and it's a part of the values, okay? Or I should be more myself with the partner, not less myself with the partner, because this is Aries. And there is a desire to be publicly known. So let's say if this is a partner, it's cannot be hidden partner. It's a partner that people see, that we're known by, 10th house. And that is true. Okay, so let's look at like houses. So we said the 7th is the 5th. The 7th in the 5th is also meaning that I desire for when I, let's say, fall in love, because it's also house of romance. I desire this to be not just falling in love, but falling in love and being partners. Okay, it's like that is, it can also actually be a positive signification that the people I fall in love with is the people I also partner up with. If it is mutual, okay, if it's like a romance, we are partners. We're not just lovers, we are also one-to-one partners. And that is true. So, and also it's true by refuting, because when this did not happen, then I could not be in love. I could not be in love. Okay, it's like no, there would be no romance. So yeah. So we talked about the 7th. It can mean that probably the person I will meet as romantic partner or have affair, like romantic, not in the sense of hidden affair, like affair, romantic affair, is the person that eventually, like, I would be also partner with, whether the partnership will last or not. It's like you don't have casual affairs with this one. It's nothing casual about my affairs. I said I have a luminary in my 5th. It's always emotional, but here, no, it's just beyond that emotional. It's also practical. So yeah, it's like the partners. So that is another interesting thing. So let's say my 8th house is my 6th house. So I might be working or giving service, or my health is created to issues of the occult. Interesting, or energy, or intergenerational stuff. And my tropical 7th is 9th. My tropical, oh, I knew it. My tropical 7th is 9th. I have there Saturn and Mars, draconically. So draconically, 9th house, if we go by whole sign, which is easier for me, it means that my tropical 7th is my draconic 9th. It also means that by partnering up with the person, it can usually be a person who is from, who has something to teach me. is also true very much with the ruler of my 7th and Venus opposing Pluto here in the 9th tropically, but it repeats with the Draconic relations where it kind of like, yeah, the partner is supposed to be someone either coming from abroad or teaching me something or having a different, language, or because it's Mercury here. And because of the presence of Mars, there can be conflict. There can be that I argue with someone and then it's a productive argument. In the best of cases, this is what it is. But also Saturn here retrograde in a Draconic chart in the 7th tropical, and this the 9th, and this is the repetitive of traveling, higher studies. There's some delay in dedication here. You gotta be ready for what you are coming here to do. And this also denotes the relationships, kind of adds a Saturn thing, is kind of delaying relationships. So yes. And also here it is with Ketu. So the tropical 7th is with the Draconian Ketu, so it means I tend to lean on relationship, but actually need to lean on myself more, or myself and my income more than my relationships. It's kind of like I'm supposed to do that. It's also something that I want to do. So yes. And then if we go on, that would be my 10th. Draconian is my 8th, which we talked about. My 11th Draconian is my 9th. That means that higher studies and going abroad spike up, and there's also Jupiter there, spike up an agenda. Very, very true. I can't even, this is so true. I was Mito veteran in academia. Then I traveled to Netherlands, and I basically, by curiosity, I channeled the fears, and then I got into somebody tried to put me in human trafficking, and then I got exposed to the many things that go there, and go in the world in general. So it's kind of like, I just wanted to get away, and poof, there's this social agenda that I do. So yes, this is Draconian 11th. Draconian 12th is my tropical 10th. Oh, they say you should especially pay attention to the 12th thingies. Okay, so the Draconian 12th is my tropical 10th, and if you count by Placidus, so 10th and 11th. That means that first of all, in general, the 10th is like, what can I do about how people see me? But it's also my career. It can also mean loss. So I grew up with one parent, and it can also be signified by that. Like the 10th is maybe the father, and then the father is a distance. So it's kind of like there's a sense of like loss, or missing. Is also meaning career that has to do with issues of the 12th house. So what people do in their bedrooms, or how people treat people who are like at hospital or at jail, and kind of like breaking a stigma with Uranus here, breaking a stigma around mental ailment, around crime and criminals, around addiction and people with addiction, and that kind of like either what I'm known for, or I have something career to do with breaking stigma of people that deal with those things, or assisting or advocating for these people, or having spiritual teachings that help people in such situations of the 12th house, or exile, and so on and so forth. Now let's say that the tropical 12th house, which is Aquarius and to some degree Pisces, if it's Placidus is Pisces, and Aquarius, is the Draconian 3rd and 2nd house. Okay, so let's say tropical 12 is the 2nd house. Oh, this is very interesting now, because when I have experiences of the 12th, I gain something. I gain skill and I gain money. Okay. For example, I got my money to study. Tropically, I have Saturn in my 9th house. Okay, so the ruler of the 12th in the 9th. I got into debt because of a prescription of pill that I was given that was causing money. stuff, and one of the things is shopping. And I got and the thing is that I got into this and I didn't think much because I only thought of how do I live and how do I survive. And instead, I really, really want to heal, so I kept taking this pill. It was Vipax, antidepressant. And it got to the point that because I had debt, then only then I was acknowledged. Before I had debt, nobody acknowledged me, but after I had debt, after I caused damage to society, basically, I was acknowledged as a mental health case, and so I deserved rehabilitation, and that was the financing of my first degree. And only after I finished my second degree and I wanted to kind of turn into life, did I realize that what they diagnosed me basically is a side effect of the pill that I got, but they made it a whole diagnosis. And that was the way I see it today. It's kind of like to hide the side effects of pills. Now we have it with COVID, so people would get heart attacks with COVID, and now Pfizer is raising money to do a medication against the sudden spikes in the heart rate. It causes heartaches, and people suddenly die. So now they want to make money from this. And this was basically the side effect to the vaccine. Okay, this is known, it is proved. They are also paying shilumim. They are also already paying money to survivors, and the families of deceased. So it is not conspiracy theory. It is the truth. This is what happened. And so here it means that also from the Draconic, it's like the Draconic. The Draconic second, it kind of means like when I'm having it, well, it's like if you put me in exile, if you put me in jail, if you put me in hospital, if you put me in a situation of the 12th or one of these things, I gain money from that. I become profitable. And what I become profitable is some sort of humanitarian help, a spiritual teaching, or I get money like to study something new, okay, like when I got funding for academia, but also this happened after my therapist. Basically, it was 2019, and for me, the horrid happened from my therapist, and basically, it was such a situation that because I was not functioning for 3 months, then I got certain money that I didn't use, and so I could study aromatherapy, the first course, and that is how by person who put me through psychic torture and threatened my life in the physical, I got money to study something new. Okay, so I don't idealize this position, but it kind of means that I'm the kind of person that's like you put them in exile, they come out richer and better. You put them in jail, they come out richer and better. You put them in, whatever hospital, they come out wealthier and better. Now and also have the spiritual teaching. Now they can help others. So it's kind of mean that it's actually a very dangerous person, because if I was not a person of the light, I could be like those people that become tyrannical. The people that were sent to exile and then they became the head of the country. But here is more like an activist, a spiritual teacher, or something like this. And it's a very dangerous person, because it's a person that if you try to take them down, they become more successful. It's not that I don't suffer. I suffered. I went through torture. But I basically go up in rank. Okay, Jupiter in Capricorn. I go up in rank. I go up in social status. Jupiter ruling the 10th. Okay. I have spiritual teachings. I can go abroad, for example, or be known even more internationally, for example. So a very dangerous person. Okay, very dangerous person is a person that you don't want to be their hidden enemy. Because now everybody knows what you did internationally. Okay, they may not know your name, but you cannot talk about you cannot present yourself too much, you cannot pride on your achievement too much without that interacting with what you did to this person. It's kind of like you mistreat a person, then they become like a famous, if it was not Jupiter, they would become like a famous actor or famous actress, and kind of like have a song that they don't mention a name, but it's like you couldn't say, oh, I knew this person before they were famous. They were, they don't know which energy. Yeah, we heard all about you. Like, we didn't know your name, we didn't know who you are, but you just exposed yourself. So this is a combination where The native suffers, unfortunately. But I do not, like I said, to friend, I do not wish my enemies to be my enemies. It doesn't matter if they're hidden or not hidden, but especially here of the 12th, somebody tried to be my enemy from the 12th. They better treat me right, because it will end up in the 10th and 9th, and I will be richer. You know? Like, you try to take this person down, they become richer. So yes, it's kind of like a loop that keeps me in life. And sometimes I think, why am I going through this? But then I become even wealthier, even richer. So yeah. And it also means that that to tend to those issues of the 12th, so let's say to Aquarius rules astrology. Okay, so astrology is very benefic, even if I don't make directly money from astrology. I can gain wealth by tending to astrology or by helping astrologers. It also means that people who are like having social agenda for the masses and are in certain disposition, maybe they are in jail, maybe they are, and if you count in Pisces, maybe they are spies, but Aquarius, maybe they are hackers, or maybe they are developing something to do with technology, or maybe they are astrologers, but they are in poverty or in such situations where, so helping these people is actually very good for my karma, especially, I guess it wears off certain karma, and that is alleviating difficulties that I have in the 12th, and also contributing to my own wealth. So it's kind of like you want to help someone, and you're so passionate about helping someone because they have a dream, you can relate to them, and you understand that you're not just helping a person who is poor. They are not miserable. They have a lot of shine to give, but they need assistance, and they will shine on. So it's kind of like an investment. And then you think about how to help them, and you become like visionary, because now you have ideas, and now these ideas, they also give you money, or they also give you the wealth, or they expose you to certain connections. And here is the 12th, the other 12th, the Draconian 12th is the 10th. Okay, so those are very much by tending to those people who are marginalized and outcast, I gain status and money and skill. So yes, this is another concrete example. Now I want to go back, because I still have blood in me. So the transits of Draconic Mars to Draconic Jupiter, married by the chart of Maxima and Willem Alexander. So the transit of Draconic Mars to Draconic Jupiter, marrying a foreigner and starting a new family in a foreign country. Mars rules the Draconic 4th. Also, you also have rulers for the Draconic chart. Wow, it's a lot of information. Transits of Draconic Jupiter to Draconic Moon. Transits of Draconic Venus to Draconic Uranus, ruler of the Ascendant. Transit in Draconic Mercury, Sun, and Venus, and Neptune to Draconic 10th. Okay, so this is the marriage, basically. Yeah, so those are the transits. Okay, now let's take a look at transits. Transits to the Draconic chart. So I'm going to go here. Draconic transits charts. And yes, for now. And I'm going to write my birth again. And this is astrosig.com that I'm using for computation, because I've gotten so accustomed, and it's so comfortable once you get accustomed to it. And there isn't endless opportunities here too. Or you can do astro.com. Yeah. Yes, so transit charts. Okay, this is transits and birth chart, but I need transits plus Draconic. Oh, Draconic transits plus Draconic birth chart. Okay, so transits to the Draconic chart. Let me see if I have something within 2 degrees. The closest is Neptune to Venus. Draconically, I have Venus and Mercury in Aquarius, which is 2nd house. It's funny because I have the ascendant of one of my parents draconically, which is very interesting. Maybe another pattern that people have, I don't know. So the closest is Venus and Neptune here. Do I identify anything more? Well, right now the ascendant, oh, this is nice because right now the draconic ascendant, if you can see, is only 2 degrees from the draconic Ketu. Okay, so this is very interesting. It's like the ascendant now is with the draconic Ketu, and the ascendant is with the draconic Rahu, and that means I'm talking about this draconic astrology. That it's like it's very timely to talk about how these charts meet each other, with now the transit and ascendant. Anything more? Well, it's not. It's almost like a draconic Chiron return. Almost so. We have Neptune, Venus. We have draconic Chiron return, which is not exactly tied orb, but it's kinda. And we have draconic descendant to draconic sun. So this is where the issues of relationships may be accentuated, or even romance or anything like that, creative stuff. Yeah, quite interesting. So the most tight is draconic sun to draconic descendant. Maybe I can fall in love with someone that I would partner up with. I did not suggest it at this time because Venus, but that is a possibility. So yeah, Jupiter and Moon are conjuncting in the draconic transits. Okay. Now let's see transits to the draconic transits to the birth time. Oh, draconic Pluto is now with the Neptune for me. So Pluto, Neptune. Okay. Draconic Sun to Moon. It's not that tight of an orb, but it exists. Draconic Sun to Moon. Again, my 5th house is very much accentuated. Ascendant, Draconic Ascendant and Ketu. Oh, no, it's not related. And the descendant, okay, the descendant or the 7th house is with my Draconic Rahu that we've already seen. Oh, Draconic Uranus to my Mercury. Draconic Uranus transits my natal Mercury. So yeah, a lot about astrology, talking about astrology, the life of astrology, revolutions in like relational patterns, childhood issues around children. So yeah, Uranus, revolutionary love. Oh, recently when I thought, every once in a while I have like these fated manifestations where I do around relationships and love and so. Once it was love is vacation. Before that, I don't remember. And actually, before I had very unhealthy dynamic, it was love without borders, but it was Liebe ohne Grenzen, and Grenzen is not just borders, also boundaries. And unfortunately, I learned about unhealthy boundaries in relationships, and the next dynamic that I had, it was of the 7th, where I was Me Too veteran. So you can understand it was not like a romantic relationship also. But I had to treat this as 7th house partnership because of other things, like Rahu was in 7th house when I was addressing this. So yeah. kind of like to grow out of it, to get out of the cycle, I had to treat it like a partnership, that is like an unhealthy or violent relationship, and then to go to use this analogy to go and like get the fuck out of this situation. And now I was thinking revolutionary love. Not long ago I had this revolutionary love. It's kind of like thinking about the revolutionary love. And yeah, it's the spirit of the times, but also Draconic Uranus is conjuncting the ruler of my 7th and 4th, which is relationship and housing. So revolutionary love. Interesting. I like this Draconic thingy. So thank you so much. I don't know if I can see here the person who asked me this question. Yeah, now we're going to have this funny loophole where, oh, you see I'm watching, this is Mars Day, so watching Carpiel. We'll go here. It's embarrassing to go through all my notes, but it was not long ago. Yeah, not long ago. It should be here. I'm supposed to see it. I hope I haven't skipped it already. No, maybe I skipped it. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's annoying. Okay, no, I saw it. I saw one of my videos. Here it is. Oh, this is Philo Music X. Okay, they commented and they said they want to learn about tropical, sidereal, draconic, and Dodecatemoria. So I only did Draconic today because look, it is almost 2 hours. So I will keep it at the Draconic. I thank you so much, Philo Music X, for requesting these topics for me, because I learned myself something completely new. I would definitely look at charts differently in this way, and that's another thing to look at a person's chart. And you know, when you look at astrology, you kind of see themes that are collaborating. Okay, you saw how, for example, I had like a double whammy where the 12th of my Draconian was related to my 10th, and the 12th from me was related to my 2nd, and the 2nd Draconian was tropical was related to the 10th. So 10th, 12th, 2nd, 10, 12, 2nd. Okay, you see how they have these patterns around themselves, and you saw, like I was thinking in my life, I was thinking revolutionary love. It's like fated. I know something coming up, revolutionary love, and look, okay, the 5th is my 7th. It's been triggered by the sun. The descendant has been triggered by the sun draconically. I already talked, when I talked about eclipses, I already talked about, you know, what's happening, how my 5th and 7th and ruler of the 2nd are very, very triggered, kind of like impacted or revolutionized by the eclipse cycle upcoming and ongoing. And now I see draconically transit Uranus to my ruler of the 7th and 4th tropically, okay? As Uranus is only 2 years from entering my 4th house for a while now. So, revolutionary love, okay? You see those patterns kind of come up. And also, if you give readings, if you're a consulting astrologer, you give readings to people, you look at the tropical, the transits, you look at, if you do Vedic astrology, you look at the dashas, okay, or the, you know, like, then you can look at zodiac releasing, which is another great timing technique from Hellenistic astrology. And you look at all these things, so now you can look at the progression, okay, the solar progression, secondary progression, which I also need. The secondary, I definitely need to do a study with me live about. And if you look at the Draconian, which is going by the moon, you have an even wider picture. And as you see themes repeating themselves, you understand that those become more significant, that those really manifest. And as you see, like, for example, if I was given a reading to me, and I would see this 12th with the 2nd with the 10th, with the 2nd with the 12th, with the 2nd with the 10th, and I would say to this person, listen, whatever people are marginalized in your society, whatever people are going through loss, whatever people are in jail, in hospital, in exile, study. help these people, make contribution to these people, learn about this, it will increase your income, it will increase your career, maybe something you will even be known by. So why? Because you see this happening in all the charts, is kind of repeating itself. Or if I would give for the transits, if I would give me a reading, then immediately I would say, darling, the issue for relationship for you is very hot topic. A very hot topic, and there could be something unusual, something revolutionary about, you're going to revolutionize the way you see relationships, are going to rethink it, it's going through upheaval, it's going to be chaotic, but you're going to see that this is coming up for you now. It's fated. Whatever you think now, oh, I'm single, oh, I've retired from relationship, oh, I'm alone. No, you are going to be rethinking this topic, maybe people you fall in love with or partner up with, or something there. And because of the outer planet Uranus, they can even, with Uranus, they can even be doing something with mass technology, doing astrology, because it's also Uranus, or that you do some revolution, okay, that you do some revolution together with your partner. It can be all of the above. So yeah, that is Draconian astrology. Okay, so the lunar nodes, and you saw my here, you see here the clickbait. Oh, you don't see it now, I have to do it like this. No, because now you see me, it's so the clickbait is also for the stuff that I did with Moonrow that got me into lunar nodes based astrology, which is Draconian astrology. So thank you very, very much. This is a lovely turn of events, and I'll see you in my next episode. So thank you for watching. You can subscribe to me if you want, or you can suggest more topic. You can suggest more topic in the comments that I can do study life with me, or if I already know, then I will explain to you about them. And that was Draconian astrology. So, à tout à l'heure.